Hello, people of YouTube. I want to talk to you today about, just real quick, about those emotions that, or things that might come up that might make you feel off or not so good in the moment. And there's plenty of words for these feelings, plenty of ways to describe them. Physiological symptoms. Pits in your stomach, lump in your throat, just nervousness all around the body, all that stuff. It could be anything. That has only come up because your ego is trying to keep you informed as your previous self. No one is interested in staying their old self forever. There is everybody who has a previous self that they do not want to associate with, and you hear it a lot in how people usually talk about their old self and like, oh, I was like this back in the day or whatever. But when you're in that moment of change, that's the moment of change. So I heard it stated like this, where basically all those emotions, the fear, guilt, shame, the feelings of a fog or discontinuity and stuff like that, are actually things that are happening to show that you aren't aligned with the 4D self. But it doesn't mean that you're necessarily on the wrong track. It means that the ego is threatened and that there is a separation, and sometimes it may seem, although everything is on equal playing fields here, it may seem that there's like a greater distance from this imaginal act from a previous state, like and I know I've had quite a few circumstances that felt like all it is just you hanging on to the old. It usually doesn't feel good, right? The fears and stuff like that is like probably the number one thing to keep you boxed up. And I have actually had a experience a couple of days ago where there was like this feeling I used to get since I was a kid, right? When, how do I say this? I would get this feeling of like guilt. It was like a very guilty, pitying other people and stuff like that. And it was not good. It made for quite a how do you say it? I didn't know how to describe this feeling. I didn't know where it was coming from, but it was very pervasive in my childhood and young adolescent years. And it haunted me for quite a long time. And it's just like, I don't know where that comes from, what that is. It's something that stems from before I can even remember, right? A development of a dynamic. And so it tries to hold form. Well, after fucking 8 months straight of just expanding on the manifestation game and working on self-concept and stuff like that, it's weird, man, because now when I began this video, I was telling you about the discrepancy between your emotions and how sometimes they make you feel like you're on the wrong path, but actually they're pointing you in the most perfect direction, because it's telling you, now not the ego wants to say the same, but if you step back and you're observing the 3D and your 4D, right, then it points to, you get to choose what you're going to focus on now. Are you going to go back to the old story? 3D is old news. Once you figure that thing out, that's a whole other video. That might be a couple of videos. The time delay, so-called, things can be instant for sure, but that's some good shit right there, because it makes you feel a little bit, you got time to like sort yourself out if you're on like a fearful kick or something like that. But anyways, where was I going with this? So I went on that trip, and I remember the whole time. Now this is just me working on myself, right? Not really hardcore, I feel like. I use a couple of tools. You could do like meditations, subliminals, yoga, anything like that. And that's usually what I do. I'm big on subliminals, but so we went on this trip, and literally I could feel my ego. It was like the volume knob went down on that. Now, for 25 years, I've probably been rolling around with this. And for the first time in that amount of time, I literally go on vacation. And it's usually like a bittersweet, melancholic feeling. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but it's really sad, especially like that a kid would feel like that. But anyways, not to focus on it, but on this trip, I could feel it with the volume turned down from like 7 or 8 to like 1. And to be honest, I wasn't identifying with it at all. I mean, it was just like, I know what that is, and I recognize it, but that's not me. And I literally went through the whole trip just as a different person than I've ever been. I tell you, the 2026 is absolutely crazy. We're breaking like 25-year-old patterns in 26 and becoming a new self. And that's the fun in this. Sometimes we tend to focus on putting the attention out there and on this person and that person. It's all you. They are you. It is you. But it's just like, what are you claiming on the day-to-day? So yes, and I remember coming back from that trip, it just was different. And that's fun, man. That's like a lot of the fun in this, is that your feeling state, your thoughts, all that stuff is different. And you don't have to live with the old story. I think that's a point that I'm going to make a lot, is that you do not have to sit here and carry the old story. And you can literally look at it, observe it, and say, oh yeah, that's not me, you know. Or you say, this is me, and look at that 4D self, that 4D fact. But it's going to appear as some kind of, it was weird because it like wanted me to worry about those things. I could feel that. This may not be the best example, because I'm pretty sure that I was at a point where I basically had dropped it. I could see it, but it was like, I just already knew that that's not me anymore. And I was able to absolutely abolish this unknown melancholic feeling that I had no idea where the source of it came from. And that may be a good point to throw in there, is that you don't even need to know where it came from. You don't have to fucking heal every little thing that happened, or, you know, recognizing a dynamic is probably, I would say that's like good enough. Just being self-aware enough to recognize, you know, patterns and stuff. If you don't like the life you're living, it's like either you're living in a loop, and that's not always a bad thing. If you like the shit that you're doing, or you like exactly what you got, you know, loop the good stuff, you know, and do like minor changes, just make everything better and better and better. Either you're doing the loop thing, or you are completely forging something new, right? The 3D and the old self and all that that's the only thing that will stand in the way if you let it. That's the crazy part. So when you feel those feelings, I did experience this in early 25. I remember there was a particular thing that it had my nervous system shocked for a couple years. And it was just not at all good for me. And I remember I was able to reframe the feeling of the pit in my stomach, the worrying, the nervousness and all that. I was able to reframe that into like, oh, that's that's the ego having to rework itself. That's the old self dying. Don't cave into it. And I would literally put like a good meaning like behind it. You know, it's like, oh, that means I'm getting, XYZ. That means this is happening. That means that already happened. I've done it with numbers. Anybody can do it. You're just reprogramming the meaning and therefore the response behind things. And you'll see, like, eventually you'll actually feel good whenever you used to get a feeling of fear or dissonance or separation or anything like that. And most of those things won't even come to you once you kick the root meaning, whatever the meaning is that you gave it. It's very, very simple, so maybe there's more to be elaborated on there in terms of a dissonance with your feelings and emotions in the 4D state. I did post in a previous video about like the dissonance with the job. I mean, and I really, really wanted this job, but it's like, I know when I step back and I get that view, I get that full scale view, ultimate self-awareness of my 4D and my 3D, and I'm looking at it and it's like, where is this going? The old self that's already gone is the 3D, right? And I was able to categorize it and say, this like pit in my stomach is literally driving me towards my 4D, right? It may be scary. There is something else I really want to say, but I think I'm going to make a whole video about it because it was, I might even save it for the one-on-ones. But it was a very big manifestation. It was, pretty cool. And I got to experience real time manifesting something really big that a lot of people probably have resistance to. Hopefully not, but they could. But it's a big deal. It's a real big deal. So anyways, I'm just like thinking about that, and it took a while for it to like, I was in the process of acquiring it, and it took a while, but it's already done. It's already done now. So anyways, I'm going to cut it here, and just want to say that if you want to talk with me, or you're interested to know something, or you have questions, or you really want to workshop on kind of where you're at, and really gear yourself towards where you want to be, feel free to go to the links in the description below. And pretty sure everything's working good now. And I gotta write you in on a calendar, and I will have to set a good date and time, which will basically be up to the viewer. And yeah, I just can't wait to talk and connect with people over this, because it's a very fun, you could even call it relieving. It's the best thing, truly. And once you get to the point where you know what's going on, how it works, and you can really take full accountability for your life and steer your life to exactly where you want to be, that's what makes it worth it. And you're doing it anyways all the time anyways. So anyways, I'm going to wrap this one. All right, see you guys later.